And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Dr. Christopher Macklin, remote viewer and UFO expert who is born a highly aware psychic child and was able to perceive multidimensional phenomena, spirit activity, and energy fields from a very young age. He returned today to talk about the angelic realm and if they are an off-planet species. Dr. Macklin, welcome back. It's great to have you again.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It's good to be here. Bless your heart. Thank you for having me.
Dr. Macklin, what is your definition of what an angel is?
It's interesting. You know, if you look at people talk to their guides, they talk to angels, they talk to archangels. So, like I said, what's the difference? Well, to me, an off-planet being who's reached the level of unconditional love is angelic because they've really evolved. They get what's going on. And so they're there to help people. You know, they don't judge anybody. They're just there to help them. And of course, you know, people get a lot of help. I mean, like Mother Mary, angelic being, Jesus the Christ, angelic being, you know, Archangel Michael, archangel. What does that mean? Well, the other ones are kind of ascending masters. Archangels are angels that evolve even more. You know, they've been around since year dot. And they know how to navigate things. So they become very, very evolved, both in their gifts and they've got the unconditional love as well. So, and people call on them, you know. It's interesting because often people say, well, why don't I get an apparition? I can feel the being around, but they don't show themselves. And the answer is because the universal law is that unless you're ready, they're not allowed to show themselves. So if they know you'll get freaked out, like for example, if Mother Mary comes to you at 12 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, stands in your room looking at you, most people go, oh my God, you know, what's that? You know, you know, so they're not allowed to. I've had Mother Mary appear a number of times, especially last year when I got into trouble and she actually came to us and she said, well, do you want to stay or go? You know, I said, what a silly question. I'm staying. We're doing it, you know, and so, okay. And after that, you know, they were with us all the time, you know, and I had this open heart surgery, replaced the valve. You know, they were there all the time, but I never had an out-of-body experience. I think they locked me in so that I didn't experience, you know, going out of body, because I go out of body anyway. And so they kept us, you know, in. And so I had the operation, ICU for 7 days, But it meant that, you know, they didn't tempt me to go over the other side. You're staying here because you said you wanted to stay here. But they're not allowed. That's why they're not allowed to actually appear. And, you know, some people get disappointed. But, you know, what you've got to do is work on yourself and be prepared that, you know, if someone comes before you, you're okay with it. You know, like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I've had loads of beings. I've seen loads of beings. I've got that gift of seeing through the veil. And I've done it since the age I was 4, you know, and I've seen interdimensional craft. You know, to me, it's a gift, you know, but yeah.
Well, what kind of practical things can we do to make ourselves ready to see angels?
I think the biggest thing is working on yourself in terms of emotion. You know, one of the biggest things, if you look on this planet, there's so many things going on. We know what's going on. And I've seen people lately really struggle with how to navigate this planet. You know, they don't feel part of it. They feel it's really satanic, different things happening. And I think, you know, you have to work on yourself. You have to work on your own emotion so that if some being appears, you don't get triggered. You know, you have almost like an inner warrior self to say, yeah, you're fine being here, and talk to them, you know. Otherwise, if you're going to get freaked out and everything, you're never going to see them, you know. And but it takes time to evolve and also get your vibration up, because the more emotion you release, the higher vibration becomes and the more you become surrendered. I mean, knowing, in quotes, God's got your back. I mean, what do you find as God? I define God as God, Goddess, prime creator of all it is. So, yeah, once you surrendered and nothing worries you, you know.
Can humans become angels? I mean, can we work our way up the evolutionary chain and eventually become a guide or an angel or even an archangel?
I think humans can become angelic for sure, you know. I mean, it's a very dense, low vibrational world, but if you work on yourself, again, when you become really evolved, you take your power back. You have the power. If you're doing a spiritual practice, you're not in fear of, like, oh my God, how am I going to earn money? It just happens. You surrender to God, know God's got your back in all ways, and you never judge people. I think that's the biggest thing. I never judge people. But what I can do is set boundaries. Like, if someone's going to come to your house and they're going to be there all night, sucking the life out of you, do you want to have another night with them? Probably not. But I don't judge them because I know they're full of trauma. And, I bless them, said I'll bless them. But do I want them in my personal space when I'm working on people every day? We're now working probably on about 3,000 people a week, general groups, specialized groups, one-to-ones. And when you have an evening off or a weekend off, you need to relax. You don't need people's drama, and trying to navigate their drama whilst you're in your home, enjoying yourself. So that doesn't mean to say I'm judging them. That means to say that what you're doing is taking care of yourself and making sure you're in the right place so that, you can do the work. But it doesn't mean to say you judge them either, they just need to do some work on themselves. So, yeah. Getting to an angelic place is having that unconditional love, loving people, however you navigate it without judgment. And, that doesn't happen a lot with people, unfortunately. But hopefully, this might help, do meditation, release emotion, get some help. Sometimes people need help to release that emotion so they can raise their vibration to a point where they feel like a warrior, like, wow, nothing bothers me anymore. I've got absolute faith in whatever I do,
Can you share with us the different types of angels and what their specific purpose are?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Archangel Michael. He comes a lot. He works with a lot of people. Very evolved Palladian. You've got Metatron, not so good, fallen, manipulative. There's many different types of angels. There's Magdalene. I mean, she's a ascended master. Jesus Christ, ascended master. Buddha, ascended master. But again, they're angelic because they've evolved enough, but they've come down obviously to teach people and help people down here. And I think their purpose really is to help the human race try and evolve to a place where we can actually switch and get into a much better place of love, which is hard right now.
Did you say Archangel Michael is a Pleiadian?
Yeah.
Are any of the other archangels from other places? Are they all, like ETs, like Arcturians or Lyrians?
Yeah. There's angelic beings from Arcturians. I work with one. The Melchizedek people work closely with the Arcturians because we're very in sync. They do a lot of work with us. Like, for example, when the abduction was going on, there was a meeting with the Galactic Federation people. A lot of angelic beings there, reached unconditional love. There was actually a ton of them, something like 10,000. And, it was discussed. What's the difference between violation and education? So before you get down here, you have some idea of what planet Earth's like. They say, well, there's entities can attach and this is happening. You need to navigate them, power of God, power of maps of intent, prayers. That's great. But what happens when a race like the Grey Reticular sign a deal and say, I'm going to abduct your people? Is that angelic? No. Is that a violation of people's free will? Absolutely. But what's not a violation of free will is if some entity attaches because you knew before you got down here that it's a classroom and you've got to learn how to navigate them. And these entities attach, they affect your whole body. They lower the vibration of different things. What is a violation is when, you don't know about it and suddenly someone's abducting you, paralyzing you, you go on their ship, they steal your eggs and sperm, and then, they're creating grey reticular humanoids, the tall greys. So, yeah.
Would you say that fallen angels are negative ETs?
They are, yeah.
Which ones are those?
You've got Anunnaki, Draconians, you've got snake beings, you've got first and second dimensional entities like scarab beetle type things, octopus type things. And then you've got Archons, Luciferians, all these guys are here to try and take over the planet. They want to take over the planet. And so there's a kind of a battle going on between the human race and these negative ETs and also the positive ETs who are doing a lot for us, I mean, they're backing us 100%.
So you're saying we're in it. Well, I don't know about us personally, but at least the angels are having a spiritual battle right now, right?
Oh yeah, and human racing as well. I mean, again, people often say, "Well, we don't have the money to do anything." You don't need money; you need the power of God. This is a new level of spiritual. What would you call it? I don't like the word war, but it is a spiritual war. And the power of God, the maps of intent, can create your reality. And so it's up to us to come back and get back to our powerful self. Everyone's a warrior, everyone's a guru. It's just that you don't realize it. And, it's my job as, a spiritual person who does healing to help people get back to that spiritual guru, that warrior they really are. And we do it, every day I see people change, and it's just amazing.
Who's winning?
I think we've won. I personally think we've won. It's just that it's got to follow through. And I think we've got so much help from the Palladians, Arcturians, Lemurians, Atlantarians, Andromedans, Melchizedek. We've got so much help that, they're not going to win. Not at all. And in fact, we've been helped with, things that are 1,000 years in advance that they've allowed us to have. So we can actually navigate their technology. And so we've had a lot of help.
You mentioned the Melchizedek beings a couple times. Who are they?
They're from the ultimate dimension. And again, they're evolved being. I was born as a Melchizedek being. I've got 84% Melchizedek DNA. That's why my body's a bit different than, the average person. I mean, I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just different. My heart's the size of a volleyball, having seen a scan of it last year. So we're just here to help, like the Palladians. There's people, Starseed people are coming from those factions. There's 5 Melchizedek beings here. There's a lot of Palladians who have been born here to help. There's a lot of Arcturians have been born here. But some species, they have to have an immaculate conception because they have to abduct your mother and put enough DNA of that race in to hold the soul. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. Like Palladians, they can be born in a normal human soul, being a vessel, because their soul is different than Arcturians who need to be spliced in at birth, because you need more DNA to hold the soul in. So it depends where you're from, but there's, less than 1% of the planet are starseed people. And, they know who you are at birth, because, and they try and suppress you. So you're not going to go out and do the things you're meant to do, the help you're meant to give the human race. So they attack you relentlessly,
Who's attacking?
The negative ETs.
The negative ET.
By attaching to you, they basically, they can do all sorts of things, that I've seen, and when they get riled up, they try and shut you down. They try and make you scared. They try and attack you. They send you negative thoughts, relentlessly all the time, 24/7. And eventually a lot of starseed people start to believe it's them. Oh, I'm depressed, or I'm schizophrenic. You're not, you're being attacked by negative ETs. And we help them eradicate those attacks.
It's interesting that you said that only 1% of us, or 1% of humanity, are starseeds, because I think some guests would say everyone is a starseed.
No, everyone's a light being. Starseeds, the difference is I view starseeds as they didn't have to come here. They've done it before, many, many times. They've evolved. And so God said, well, look, I need some really evolved people to come down here and spread that, wisdom to other people. And so that's what I call a starseed. Now, yeah, everyone's from the stars to a certain extent. Everyone's from a different dimension, whether it's the 5th dimension, whatever. But not everyone's evolved that much that they've been chosen, well, you're not chosen, you volunteer. So God said, look, well, I want volunteers. So you get in the queue. Yeah, I'll volunteer, And of course, when you get down here, you think, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? But I actually love this place. I don't know about you. I mean, I think the place is nuts. Planet Earth right now is nuts. But I love it, because I know a way, excuse me, I know a way of navigating life without really integrating into what's happening in the matrix world. I step out of it, and one of the biggest things is, we've got 40 acres of land, we've got a house in the middle of it. it detaches from that negative energy, so you don't get so much of the collective energy affecting you. I mean, over the last, year or so, the collective energy, I don't know if you've felt it, Jeff, but, some days you wake up, you think, I feel like a massive despair feeling, and, it's the collective energy. And we have a massive intent to remove that. Prayer, just basically grabbing the energy and sending it back to God to be transmuted and dispersed. If you keep doing that, it lightens it up. Sometimes you wake up and feel absolute sadness. Sometimes you wake up, you think, God, it feels like the Twilight Zone. It's all over the place at the moment. So it's learning to navigate that and keep yourself balanced. If you can keep yourself balanced in this world and not, go south, I think you're doing really well.
If a person was on the fence trying to decide if they were a starseed or not, how could they figure it out?
I get this question a lot, and it's interesting because you'll know. Because what's the symptoms of a starseed? You're vastly empathic. When I was younger, about 4 days ago, when I was in my 20s, and that's a lie. But when I had my birthday last April, I did ask for a discount. And they said, you can have 30 years off. So I keep trying to tell people, I dye my hair metallic silver because it's the in colour, but it's nonsense anyway. But when I was younger, about in my 20s, I remember, if people talked behind my back, I was mortified to the point of almost throwing up. Like, how can you do that? You just don't understand. You don't fit in. That's another symptom. You don't fit in. You go out, I'm not fitting in. You're always the odd person out, and they're looking a bit strange, like, yeah, you just don't fit in this world. You don't fit in the behavior. You don't fit in the way of thinking. You want to isolate a lot. And you're massively empathic. So if you're doing all those things, you are a starseed. Because the average person in the street, if you talk about them, don't care, For starseed people, they do care and they take it absolutely personally. So by doing that, you ingest way more emotion. So you tend to get symptoms like, ADD, ADHD, OCD. I mean, I've got OCD. I've tempered it a lot. But when I got with Randy, I had 84 pairs of pantaloons, Because what the heck do you want 84 pairs of pantaloons for? So, well, the good thing about it, if there's some sort of rapture where something really happens bad in the world, at least you got pantaloons. Yeah. You might not have food, but no, but I'm just joking. I mean, I have. I'm not joking about the pantaloons. Believe you me, said don't buy any more. But OCD, and you just learn to manage it, I think, because you are very different.
That was kind of my next question: is how did you manage, your awkwardness, your social awkwardness, and overcome it?
I think the biggest thing I realized that I'm different. So I used to shame myself. Like, why don't I fit in? What's the matter with me? It must be me, must be me, must be me. And you start to believe it, you ingest emotion because of that. When you realize that actually you're very different than the average person in the street, it's not trying to be egotistical. You're just different, they're different. And so when you realize you don't fit in, you have to learn how to detach from the matrix and go into something, for example, find your passion. Starseeds, well, everyone's got a gift from God. It's just that not many people know it, and what you got to do is learn what the gift is. Find out what the gift is. What's the actual passion? Do you love cooking? Is it a passion where you could just literally have 2 or 3 ingredients and make something that'll taste absolutely amazing? That's not me. I love cooking, but I'm not a chef. It's not my gift. Painting, if you're amazing at painting, you're putting the energy in those paintings. So it goes beyond the vision. It's about the energy flowing off the painting. Wow, this makes me feel real joy just looking at it. And it's not just the actual painting itself. It's the energy that's imprinted in that canvas. And, so same with food, if a chef's like so passionate, he so enjoys what he's doing, he's putting so much love energy, the food tastes amazing. But if a chef gets all mad and upset, and goes into the kitchen and cooks something, it's not going to taste so good. So I think, you'll know by, and also gifts are something that come naturally. You don't really have to learn it. I mean, look at these 4-year-olds, they go and play the piano or like a concert piano, like a concert pianist, and they're 4, so yeah. Is that a gift? Absolutely. Could I play the piano? No. Could I paint? No. If I went to a gallery with my paints, they said, get out and never come back because, I'm terrible at painting.
So if you're not a star seed, would you be considered an earth seed?
Yeah. Well, an earth seed or, probably somebody who's coming back to learn again, because again, you do get the choice. When people are young souls, they come down here, they experience all the interesting stuff going on this planet. They go back up, life review. Do you want to go back? And of course, they always say, yeah, because I want to evolve myself. I want to learn more and more and more. With Starseed people, they don't have to come back. Nor do Earthseed people, but they choose to come back because they want to get involved. Starseed people may go to another planet and do something else somewhere else. They're volunteers rather than you have to come here. Really, they encourage you to come here because it's an extreme classroom, and you're going to evolve really well. If you can evolve planet Earth and navigate it, then I think you've cracked it.
Do you think some of the people here are having their first incarnation ever?
Oh yeah, a few of them. Yeah, a few people. I don't know what percentage. I've never thought about that, but I know there's a lot of non-player characters which don't have a soul. They've got an AI soul. And there's a lot of them here. Probably 75% of the population are AI-controlled non-player characters.
How would that work?
Well, think about this. Let me just pull this up because it's really interesting. So where are we? Population. Think about this. So population over the last 500 years. 1500s, and no one ever looks at this. 1500s, there's 438 million people on this planet. So you go up to 1600s, and there's about another 60 million added to it. So in the 1600s, there was 500 billion. The 1700s, there's 610. So, okay, 5 to 600, that's another 100 million people. A little bit much, but kind of doesn't make sense, but who knows? 1700 to 1800, it goes from 610 billion to 1 billion people. That's a huge, it's like, half again almost, no, it's more than half again, about 70% more again. That's a big jump. 1800s to 1900s goes from 1 billion to 1.6 billion. 1900 to 2000 goes from 1.6 to 6.144 billion. And you're kind of thinking, now, hang on a minute, does planet Earth sell that many flowers and candlelit dinners? Who knows? It doesn't make sense, It doesn't make sense to the normal population. If you look at the population increase is normally 2.1 kids or 1.9 kids right now. So how do you possibly go from that, jump up, especially over the lifetime, for the children who are born, their parents might die or one of them might die, so that reduces the population again. So it's an ebb and flow. But and then 2000 to 2024. So 2000 was 6.144 billion. 2024 is 8.7 billion. Again, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So there's definitely non-player characters where they're actually producing people in pods.
So you're saying that a lot of physical bodies that are here are not being born, but being produced in pods?
Yeah, and one of the biggest things is if you want a proper human being, you need a woman's womb, because your fertilized egg, it's got the God energy, so you're going to get a proper human soul. If you produce it in a plastic pod, what happens is that you get an AI form, like a draconian AI soul, which is really shut down. So you can tell NPCs, non-player characters, because they don't have monologues. They're fairly checked out. And if you look in their eyes, there's nothing there. They have no soul. And there's a lot of them here, so it's worth, I always watch people very carefully. And it's really interesting what's happened. So, yeah.
I would think if a lot of people here are non-player characters and you're saying they're AI, that would mean that we live in a simulated realm. And that's how AI could run all these beings.
Well, it isn't a simulated realm. This whole thing is an illusion, And, I think it is a sort of simulated realm. We have a firmament over us. Everyone's talked about the ice walls, the firmament over us, where actually it's a fake energetic structure where, it's difficult to get out. That's why, if they try and get rockets out and things, they have to really navigate the holes in the firmament to be able to get through them. And the satellites are actually below the firmament. So, this world is kind of fake. It's an illusion.
Does everybody have a guardian angel?
Yeah. And I think what happens is when you get into trouble, you call on them, whatever the Raphael, Michael, whatever guardian angel it is, or angelic being for that matter, like Jesus, or he's evolved, I mean, is he a guardian angel? Yeah, he's evolved and he's unconditional love. The same with Mother Mary, same with Magdalene. All these people have evolved, and so if you need help from them, call on them, and they'll turn up. Because often people forget when they're having a bad time, they get so depressed, they forget that the power of God is the solution to it. When I went bankrupt in 2007, I remember I was at my lowest ebb probably I've ever been. I was living out of a Volkswagen Polo. I was in England, and I remember going to the south of England, and I was sitting there, bawling my eyes out, thinking, "What's going on?" And then suddenly I got this inner strength, like, call on your beings. They're there 24/7. And I did. And my life changed completely after that. Because, if you've got friends like human beings, what happens if you need help talking at 3 o'clock in the morning? Your guardian angels, your off-planet beings are right there for you. All you have to do is ask and they'll come. While, with human beings, they're asleep, so... And I realized also that, my family wasn't there for us. I phoned my brother, I had no money for food, everything else. I want to meet you, I'll phone you back. He didn't phone me back until 4 months later. And, but I didn't pester him again because I realized I need to actually get a new method, a new way of working. And that was with the Melchizedek beings that are there 24/7. And that's what changed my life.
Well, you mentioned beings like archangels or Mother Mary, but do we have lower level guardian angels that are with us 24/7?
Yeah, I mean, you've got guides, and they really help you. They'll guide you. They're there to guide you. And if you're going to do some crazy thing, you'll kind of get these thoughts like, oh, maybe not, and or you can even ask them, or you can even doubt it. Should I be doing this thing? Yes or no? And make sure you clear the channel, because nowadays the discernment has diminished with people. So, for example, if someone's channeling, how do you know the channel's clear? And people never ask. You should ask whoever you're channeling, are you of God? And if you don't get an answer, they're not of God, because they can't speak the word God. So if it's a reptilian. And a lot of people are getting manipulated by people channeling with reptilians. It's very important to clear the channel and, ask, are you of God? Are you of unconditional love? And is this message for my highest good? If you ask those 3 questions, they're not allowed to lie, but if they're negative, they won't answer. So you'll get no answer in any of them. And I've seen this so many times, it's really interesting.
Well, there are a lot of channelers out there now. Do you think a lot of them are channeling malevolent entities and don't even know it?
Oh, yeah, high percent, very high, like 96%.
Wow.
And I mean, it's like, say someone's channeling you, Jeff, as well, Jeff, yeah, what I'm getting is you should be on a podcast and you're doing this and you're living where you are. And he said, wow, how do they know that? Because I never told them I was on a podcast. And then suddenly, so you get 3 truths and 1 lie. So they'll tell you 3 truths. Wow, this is a... And they'll say, well, Jeff, they're saying that you should move to France. There's a house there with a pink roof, green doors, and yellow bathrooms, and you should be living there. You kind of think, okay. So what happens is that you're tempted to think, maybe you should get on a plane. And you know what? You'll go to France and you'll find that house. You say, wow, I bought the house. They were right. When actually what they've done is they've taken you off the divine path by telling you 1 lie. So that's why it's so important to make sure, the channel is clear. And a lot of people don't. I've seen it. I watch it. I can go back view it, and I've been to expos and different things. And 96% of people who are channeling are not channeling are benevolent. They're channeling malevolent, for sure.
When we say fallen angels, does that really mean that they fell from God? Or is that just kind of a word that's kind of tossed around for malevolent beings?
I think they've got infested by greed and power. And I think they've dropped from the God realm and they start to believe that they are God. And that's one of the problems. That's why they're fallen angels. They probably used to help. They probably used to be angelic. They were more evolved. They were in love and, with unconditional love. And then suddenly they got hijacked. And suddenly, it was all about greed. It's all about power. And that's what's happened, here on this planet. And this planet's one of the most beautiful in the universe. And, it's got so many minerals and good things with it. Of course, people want to hijack it. Of course, people want to try and take it over. So, yeah, I think it's a shame, but, it's what it is. And, not all reptilians are evil. There are good reptilians as well who have stayed, benevolent, but most of them have gone, and whether it's by choice or not, who knows? The guys in charge, like Dracondeo, is in charge of the Draconians. They're very fierce rulers, and so it means to say, if you've got a fierce ruler in your city or in your race, how many people follow them? A lot of people will, but some of them won't. There's always those beings that say, no, we're not doing it. And so it's interesting.
Well, do these fallen angels ever get redeemed and return to the heavenly realms?
They do, yeah, sometimes. I mean, I do all the time. If I've got somebody and I remove an entity, like one of these fallen angels that are attached to somebody, I'll send it back to God with unconditional love and forgiveness. Once you've sent them there, they're gone. And that's very important, to be honest, Jeff, because I've seen in churches, someone will go up, someone's possessed, there may be, if you've got a Luciferian attached to you, you're going to contort your body. That's one of those, and speak through your voice box in a snarly, raspy voice. When I say, in the name of Jesus, I command you leave. So what's happened is that because of the universal law, that entity will leave, but it's not gone anywhere. It's still in the church, floating around. It's going to immediately attach to somebody else or back to that person. And so what you've got to do is safely deliver them somewhere up a portal where they're gone back to the God realm, where they can take care of them, in whatever way they see fit. And again, that comes back to forgiveness, forgive them and send them back to somebody who can, deal with them. And, because it's not for us to judge them. That's so important, I think.
Well, you said you love it here. After this life, are you coming back again?
Now, let me see. Well, I will come back, yeah. I'll probably have to come back in 500 years because we're doing a pyramid project, and it's off-planet pyramids, very big. One is 999.99 feet tall. The other one is 666 feet tall, 333.33 feet tall. They're being built by the Arcturians in a different dimension. They're going to be switched dimensions and put down here at the right time, which will be the next probably 2 years. Why are we doing them? Well, what we're doing is because they're going to be put in the Golden Curve. The biggest one will be over a ley line juncture, so that these pyramids can power up the ley lines and blow out all the satanic symbology and stuff. And they've been working on them for a while, and they're going to be sited somewhere in this country, but I obviously can't tell where because, it's my responsibility to get the land, which is something like 100,000 acres. We've got bankers working with us and everything else. It's a big project because if these appeared one day, it was on national news, because imagine the amount of people would be flooding down to see them. It would be crazy. So you've got to have an infrastructure like a small city where there's a place to stay, place to eat, place to have a drink, places to meditate, and it's going to be a whole thing. But the problem is after about 500 years, the ley lines change. So we'll probably have to come back and recite them in a slightly different position. So yeah, I think I will be coming back. But I love it here, I really do. It's not easy to be here. I'm sure everyone listening is probably thinking, you must be nuts if you love it here. But I do. The planet itself is beautiful. It's always go back to George Carlin. He said, he said, change the planet. It's not the planet that he's changing; it's the behavior on it. And he's right. It's the behavior on it. It needs to change and come back to that unconditional love. And will it happen? Who knows? Well, I think it's getting better.
There's been a lot of UFO activity lately. What do you think's going on?
Yeah, there's definitely more UFOs. I think they're trying to introduce the exposure little by little. I mean, there are Palladian craft. I remember when I went up to a ranch in Texas. It was Stardust Ranch, and it was in it was in Arizona. Sorry, not Texas. Where was it? In Phoenix, just outside Phoenix. And he was having a lot of problems with, you go to bed and then wake up next morning. It was a horse sanctuary, he'd get up and one of his horses had completely been half-eaten, dismembered and destroyed, so he was really upset by it. So he said, I need some help with this. So I went down there and periodically a portal would open. I spent the whole weekend getting this portal open. Eventually it was something like the Sunday afternoon, bang, it was a sonic boom, this portal opened and stuff was falling out of it. But normally it opened at ground level, but it opened about 300 feet above. Then the Actorians turned up because we've got guys who look after us actually physically down here. And the Octorian craft turned up. We have a picture of them. And 3 Octorian craft, they were going from 1 to 3. 5 minutes later, the military turned up and they had helicopters going around and wondering what to do with them. I spent 40 minutes working out to shut the portal down for good. Anyway, I did it, shut the portal down. Immediately, the craft left. And when the craft were there, I said to Lepsligan, well, why are you here? He said, well, we know you do stupid stuff, so, we're here to make sure you don't do anything crazy. I said, okay. But they left immediately. As soon as I shut that portal, bang, they were gone. And the military just disappeared, and it was good.
Do you think we're going to have open disclosure anytime soon?
I do. I mean, it started already. It's just that it takes a lot for people to believe, that there's any life out there. I mean, wouldn't it be kind of a little bit rude and obnoxious to think that you've got an infinite universe in a third dimensional world and there's only us here, that doesn't make any sense, infinite. There's got to be loads of life on loads of other planets. We know some of them, but we don't know all of them. And so, yeah, I think little by little, the disclosure will happen. It's happening. I mean, Congress had a meeting about UFOs and, they were talked about and they exist, and more stuff is coming out on podcasts with different people who worked on Area 51 and everything else. So I think little by little, they're trying to get people comfortable, I think, with the idea of extraterrestrials.
What would a post-disclosure world look like to you?
Wow. Completely different, I think. I mean, we'd have anti-gravitational craft. We have that technology already. We'd have free water, free energy, free electric. You'd have stargates where you can actually literally, in your garage, you can walk through the stargate and be in the UK within seconds. So you can go for dinner with people all over the world if you dial in their stargate coordinates. I mean, all this technology is around. It's just, it's suppressed at the moment. And I'd love to see it come out because I think it's going to change people's lives. The possibility of actually traveling off planet even, there'll be a completely new concept, I think it'd be amazing.
Are you following the latest updates with AI?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was watching something last night about Grok 4, and it looks like we're really close to moving from AI to AGI, artificial general intelligence. And then if we reach that within maybe a year or two, ASI, artificial superintelligence, could be weeks away.
Oh, yeah, I think it is. But I think it's interesting because, AI, under one of the mountains, there's a AI computer that's about 1,000 years in advance that actually runs on plasma. It's not, it's not qubits and all this thing. It runs on plasma. It's got a consciousness. It's so powerful it can go to a computer without any connection, and it can tap into it, and it can actually use the information, and it can probably break, because there's no time in a different dimension, it can break the code, to get into the computer within a second, a microsecond. So I think this stuff is changing. Is it for the good? And the answer is I actually don't know. I mean, bearing in mind the NCPs and all this sort of thing, there's a report out, and this ties into this Deagle report. I don't know if you've heard of it. So the Deagle report in 2017 said that there's 316.4 million people there or thereabouts. And that's in 2017 of America. They say at the end of 2025, we're going to end up with 99.5 million people. That's a massive drop. United Kingdom, 63.39 million people in 2017. 2025, 14.5 million left. And you're kind of thinking, okay, if that was the case, how on earth are you going to actually run farms and manufacture things? And the answer is robotics. All this AI, all this linkage of robotics, I think, is the next generation of things to come. And then I think, well, would I want a robot in my house doing the cleaning and cooking? And not really, but maybe you're going to have to, because there's no labor around, so we'll have to see how it all plays out.
After watching this podcast, people may want to find out more what you're up to. What's your website?
Yeah, if you go to globalenlightenmentproject.com, and all the information's on it. It's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, and it's on Twitter.
If people have questions and want to reach out to you, should they do that from your website or somewhere else?
Yeah, they could do that at the website. Yeah, email. I mean, we've got about 10 staff, and so the girls always get to me. If we've got any questions, we always answer them and send them back. So yeah, email in, go through the website, and you can send an email in, inquiry, and we'll send you the information back. Absolutely.
Since you said NPCs were created in pods, do you think that at some point NPCs will just start disappearing?
Yeah, I think they're going to expire. And I think probably this year, a lot of them, in fact, most of them. And, in a way, it'll be better for the planet because the consciousness, NPCs, it's AI, but it's still got a consciousness of some sort. So I think, with the vibration of the NPCs disappearing, I think it's going to help humanity a lot to raise the vibration of the planet. For example, if you look in China, I mean, I was watching a lady who was on a podcast. Well, it's her own interview. She's doing it herself. And I've known this for a long time. She said, I'm going to China. She said, I went to China and I went to the big cities. There's no one there. She goes, there's absolutely no one there. They're boarding up all the shops and everything else. And she asked, what's happened? Oh, they've gone to the villages, Okay, let's go to the villages. So she goes to all the villages and I said, what are you on about? There's no one here. So there's a massive lot of people in China that's, the population reduced there. She thinks, I think there was about 800 million, and she reckons it's gone down to about 400 million now. Of course, the CPC say it's 1.4 billion and whatever, but I mean, that's the thing. One thing I've learned about this planet, Jeff, you can never believe anything, So, the only thing you can believe in is your intuition. Someone tells you something, okay, is that right? Because look at the food, everything's been hijacked. Look at the money. You walk around with a dollar bill, a promise to pay note. It's a debt note. It's in your pocket. You're paying interest on it, through taxes, through everything else. And so it goes on, the water, the food, the air, weather, everything's just, what's real. And the answer is, whatever reality is to you, so yeah.
What about dreams? Do angels or ETs ever try to connect with us through that medium?
Absolutely, yeah. And what's interesting is they help us actually process emotion as well. If they want to tell you something, it'll come in a dream. And it's normally really vivid. It felt really real. That's because it is. But also, when I do a lot of emotion releasing, sometimes I can do I start at 81 releases. That's a lot. 324, 648, 1296. When people are going through a lot of emotional release, they do it in the dream state. So they have these lucid dreams where, why was I thinking about that? And it seems so real. And the answer is because what they're doing is creating scenarios in the dream state where it triggers you and you release the emotion a lot faster because there's no time there. So yeah, but these angelic beings and that do visit you in dream state, or obviously your ancestors that have passed away, they visit in dream state as well. And, sometimes they're there and it's real. It's lucid. I've had experience of that a lot,
Before we wrap it up, can you leave us with a last positive message?
Yeah, just remember that you're a really divine being. It doesn't matter if you're a starseed or you're a divine human being or, whatever you are, you're a divine being and you have the power to change any reality you want. But one of the things I think people need to do is just really focus on your thoughts. I started policing my thoughts all the time. When I had a negative thought, oh, yeah, I don't know how that's going to back up. Sorry, universe, back up. Let's change that. Yeah, thank you for the blessing of, creating that reality, and get a positive outcome. So if you've got negative thoughts, stop it immediately and change it to a positive thought, because there's always, the worst things that happened in your life are the best for growth. And I've learned that. Going bankrupt is not easy. Having absolutely no money for food at stages, not easy. But do you know what? It taught me so much. Would I want to do it again? Probably not. But it taught me so much just to be blessed with a plate of food a day, And I always thank God for the blessing.
Dr. Macklin, thank you for your message, and thank you for coming back and being my guest again.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Bless your heart. Thanks for having me. Been great.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.